Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hello everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, we can start soon the session. Our speaker now is here. He's now preparing his presentation. So all participants, welcome to the Open Data for Sustainable Development Goals webinar hosted by Open Knowledge Foundation in collaboration with the Open Knowledge Foundation. Actually, Open Knowledge Somalia is a local chapter of Open Knowledge International, which is a non-profit organization that advocates for use of open data in order to solve social problems. So we also work with promoting the open data through the community engagement, awareness campaign, capacity building programs in order to solve issues related to the data research and as well as the technology. My name is Hussein Osman Abdullahi. I'm the director of Open Knowledge Somalia. I will be coordinating today's session's webinar. Before we start, so let us go over the few things. First, please ensure your microphones are muted through the webinar in order to minimize the background noise. Secondly, we encourage actively participation from all participants. If you have questions or comments regarding the presentation, during the presentation, please feel free to type them into the chat box, so we'll address them during the Q&A session. Thirdly, today's webinar consists of one presentation, which is the title is like Open Data for Sustainable Development Goals webinar. Last not least, the webinar will be recorded for the future references. Before we start, so today I would like to introduce our speaker. Our presenter today is our friend of mine, Nikash Bazami. He's he is the CEO of Open Data in Nepal. He is a Pacific entrepreneur, Open Data advocate, and tech researcher. He served as co-founder and CEO of Open Knowledge in Nepal, non-profit civic tech organizations. And he also worked with ASAP International Open Data Network at Open Knowledge Foundation. He strongly supports open source softwares aligned with the vision of open knowledge, to empower citizens in utilization of technology and open data. His interests including engaging in cafe chat, tweet, participation hackathons, blog posts, traveling, and promoting open data. So today he is our guest, and he will be delivering open data for sustainable goals. Throughout this webinar, the expert will also explore the various aspects of open data and as well as the role of addressing in Agilegy's layout sustainable development, from promoting transparency and accountability, innovation, and collaboration. Therefore, I encourage you all active participation to ask questions, to contribute this session in order to make amazing and wonderful session. Thank you all. I would like to invite to our friend Nikash to deliver his presentation.
Everyone, thank you so much, Wilson. Can you give me the access to please share the slide?
Host, right?
Yeah. Make me a co-host or host, so that I can share my presentation slide.
Sure. I will.
Yeah. So while Wilson do that, so hi everyone, namaste, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, based on the time zone. And thank you so much, Wilson, for the wonderful introduction. My name is Nikesh Palami, as mentioned. I work with Open Knowledge Nepal as Chief Executive Officer. So as he mentioned, we are the non-profit civic tech based in Nepal, and we are also one of the active Open Knowledge Foundation chapter from Asia region. So I've been looking into different aspects of open data, open government data, and lots of other open knowledge related stuff. Just give me a second. Okay, sorry. I have a multiple screen, so I need to figure out which screen to set. Just give me a second. Okay, so the not. You can see my screen, right?
Yes, yes, we can.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Okay. Great. Thank you. So we need to mute the mic so that we can get it. So yeah. Wasan, can you control the mute and everything?
Sure, sure. Please, everyone should
Yeah.
have the mood, right? Okay, sure, right.
Okay, thank you so much. So yeah, so on today's session, thank you so much, Open Knowledge Somalia and Hussein, for inviting me to like present on this webinar. So as he mentions, and as you might have already seen from the promotions of the event also. So today I'll be talking about how open data is going to play a vital role on advancing sustainable development goals. So I'll be talking about the basic of sustainable development, open data, and some of the key ways or key ways the key role it can play on SDGs, discussing about some challenges and opportunity at the same time. The things that I'll be covering on this presentation slides are mostly available on the scattered internet, so they are available on the research papers and lots of other the reports and kinds of stuff. I'm just compiling it so that we can have some level of discussion around this. So as he also mentioned, so this was one of the thematic priorities for Open Data Day 2024 celebrations, so that we like look into this perspective of how open data has been evolving and how it will play a vital role. My slide changed, right? So you can see sustainable development kinds of stuff. So yeah, talking about the sustainable development goals. So I'll just give me a second, okay? I'll just up my second screen and open us the one on the. Okay, this will make better sense rather than using to. So yeah, talking about the sustainable development goals, I think you all must have been already read about it a lot. So the UN has developed a set of action-oriented goals to achieve global sustainable development goals by 2030. So I think 6 years is left, and there are like in total 17 goals which was developed by this 30 member state open working group. Over the like 2 years process.
I think,
So
Nikash, you cannot see your screen.
You cannot?
Yeah, you cannot.
Okay, just give me a second. I'll just figure this technical things. I just shifted from one screen to another, so that might be the reason. So now you can see it. Yeah. Okay. So thank you so much, Susan. Oh, I've been receiving this like invitations to join also. Sorry. Sorry for the technical difficulties. So yeah, I was just talking about the sustainable development goals and how it was developed by open working group of like 30 member states, and most of these goals are designed to balance these three dimensions of sustainable development. Was one is about economic, another is about social, and another is about environmental. So you must have been you must all have been like already familiar about all these goals. So all the 17 goals are sometimes not really that relevant to some country specific context, but I think this has been one of the like key important guidelines on mapping the progress of sustainable kinds of stuff. So I encourage, if you haven't really checked it out, so you can go to that links and explore the those kinds of stuff. And also talking about the basic of data, open data, because today's topics is about how open data can play a vital role in advancing the sustainable development goals. So talking about the definition of open data, so data is considered to be open if anyone can like freely use, reuse, and redistribute it for any purpose without restriction. So you must have been like already familiar with this concept of open data. So data will be open if anyone can, like we all can use it, reuse it, and redistribute it. And there are two dimensions of open data which talk. One is about legal openness, and second is about technical openness. So in legal openness, it means the data must be placed in a public domains under open license with minimal restrictions or without any restrictions. So it must be legally open, means it must have some level of open licensing into it, and it must be under public domain. And when it comes about technical openness, it means the data needs to be published in electronics format, and that are machine readable and preferably non-proprietary. So means the PDF or the other proprietary formats are not considered open data. So so anyone can like use it using like freely available software tools. So it must be machine readable and in electronic format. And another case is data must be publicly available and accessible on a public server without passwords and firewalls. So if you have to like log in, and if there are like any technical restrictions, that isn't considered as an like open data. And in many cases, so like the organization, the government, the countries make open data catalogs and portals to make sure that the data are like easier to find. So in your respective country also, you might have already seen the government's developing open data catalog, or some non-profit organization, for-profit organization developing open data catalog, so that their country or the country level data are like easy to be accessible to the citizens or decision maker kinds of stuff. So these are some basic definitions of sustainable development goals and open data that I really wanted to talk, so that we get some tentative idea of like what that really meant. So coming to the main point of the today's session, which is about achieving the sustainable development goals and the role open data can play. So we might have been like already familiar with the benefits of open data, and at the same time benefits of sustainable development goals. But as you can see, so this is one of the insights that has been like identified in World Bank research on open data and sustainable development goals. So it clearly highlights these 4 key areas where open data can play a very important role. So as you can see, open data can help achieve SDG by providing critical information on natural resources, how our government operates, the public services, the population, demographics, and many more kinds of stuff. And why that is important? Because these types of insights can inform what are our national priorities and help us determine how the most effective paths for actions on those national issues. So it at the first it will help us what are our like country level or national level priorities on sustainable development kinds of stuff, and at the same time it will also help us kind of identify the most effective ways on how that national priorities can be achieved. So the World Bank report highlighted these 4 key areas. So, and I think that's really great. We all need to like check out that research if we decided to work on sustainable development goals and interlink it open data. So one is about fostering economic growth and job creation. Second is about improving efficiency and effectiveness of public service. Third is about increasing transparency, accountability, and citizen participation. And last is about facilitating better information sharing with the government. So I'll just dive into it with some of the key examples. So if you look into fostering economic growth and job creation, you can see I think there are like 3 examples that they have like highlighted. One is about creations and optimization of business. For example, open data can definitely promote the economic growth and help us launch new businesses, optimize the existing businesses, because once the data and information gets easily accessible, we can find ways of like identifying new innovations from it and like launch new businesses. And at the same time, if you have like existing startups, for-profit business, or any types of organizations, so that will like kind of optimize the company operations by identifying or who are our consumers, what kind of service that we can offer, kinds of stuff. Second example is about improving the foreign investment. So, for example, open data will give this the greater idea to the investors who are interested in like bringing foreign investment in our respective countries, guiding them about how our government structure is, what are the existing infrastructure are there, and the existing resources kind of stuff. So that is one. And last is about reducing income inequality and promoting job growth. So open data definitely helps us alleviate poverty and increase employment on several levels. So it like for example, if we need the resources of training for critical technical jobs, or just to identify where the job growth is going and enhance our technical capacity there. So that is all possible via open data once the knowledge get easily accessible. The idea of like fostering this economic growth and job creations get much more easier. So these are the three examples that has been like discussed around these key areas, resources. So on the second topics of improving efficiency and effectiveness of public service. So these are few, I think, three key aspects. I think we all can relate. So one is about healthcare system, second is about education, and third is about food security. I think these are some of the critical problems that we all country faces. So how open data can play a role? So I think it can help strengthen the healthcare system. For example, if something like coronavirus or some types of infectious diseases happens in the near future, I think with the help of open data, we can get the good idea or good access to the healthcare resources, the fundamental educations around it, the quality of medicines, the healthcare provider. I think we all have already seen how the data has been like playing a critical role in enhancing the healthcare system. So that will get broader strengthen. And second is about promoting education and ongoing learning. So quality education has been the problem in many countries. So open data help ensure the availability of quality education, reduce the current corruptions in the education funding. I think we all already know how much level of corruption happens in our respective countries when it comes to education, improve school operations, and also at the same time give parents information to the best education for the children, not just parents but as an like individual also. If we are doing some level of pursuing some level of educations with the help of open data, that will be become much easier. And third is about revealing hunger and food security. So open data is supporting agriculture on both large and small scales. So it helps improve transparency and efficiency on markets, help farmers adopt more productive and effective techniques. And so if someone is doing the food related startups or agriculture related startups, so they will get access to the modern technology, adapt it according to their existing ecosystems, and at the same time empower consumers through information. So once that information get easily accessible, I think consumers at the same time, the people who are working on the food or agricultural industry will also get access to the broader resources where they can interconnect and at the same time reveal the hunger related problems. So this point is more focused on the government aspect and the citizen aspect. So on the report, they have highlighted these two important parts. So when it comes about increasing transparency, accountability, and citizen participation, so open data plays a very great role. So one is about strengthening institution and government. So our country level institutions and government will be very stringent because open data plays a very critical role on improving government by exposing or preventing corruption and promoting innovations in public administration. So if you see in Nepal also, so when you talk about open data within the government, they usually get scared because it talks a lot about corruptions and accountability. So open data help that enhance that aspects of like strengthening governments, and at the same time, I think there are very less amount of public innovations happening. So the technical resources that has been like developed, so there hasn't been really much innovations happening in the public administration. So if we connect the open data with sustainable development kinds of stuff, so there is a high chances of like promoting the digital public infrastructure or digital public goods in public administrations, make sure that they are using reliable technological infrastructure kinds of stuff, and at the same time ensures environmental sustainability because open data helps reduce this pollution, conserve nature, build resilience to climate change kinds of stuff. So if you see the global open data ecosystem or global tech related ecosystem, lots of people are talking nowadays about how we can like mitigate climate change, what can be the natural resources that we really need to conserve. And in the country level also, you might have already seen these discussions happening. So open data plays a very important roles on it. So bringing new innovations around it and to ensure that the idea or the initiative that we have been deploying are environmental sustainable things. So these are key related aspects. Uh, at the same time, interlinking sustainable development with open data. So this will also help facilitate better information sharing within government. So I don't know how big problem is this in your respective country, but in Asia or in Nepal, I think there is a very big silos, data silos or information silos within interdepartmental government. So one ministry of government doesn't have access to the resources of other ministries. There is no collaboration happening, and at the same time, the system they have been using or the data they have been developing also, they are not interoperated with each other. So this information sharing within the government will also better enhance. So one is about this will also like help improve cities and urban infrastructure. So we have been talking or we have been listening a lot about the smart cities. So the urban planning, the urban transportation system. So I think these all will get more insights or data driven as we move forward, and open data will play a critical roles on like improving the cities and the infrastructure of those urban places. And at the same time, I think there is a huge chances of managing disaster risks. So open data can help like design more resilient to disaster and critical resources and make sure that the critical resources are deployed effectively in the emergency situation. So if some kinds of like disaster happens related to climate or related to anything, the open data can make sure that okay, these critical resources are deployed on the right places so that better disaster response can be planned. So these are some of the key aspects of uh, key ideas that has been like discussed on the global open data platforms or global open data ecosystem on achieving the sustainable development goals interlinked with open data. So these resources are mostly available on this site. So if you really wanted to like learn more about open data and SDGs, how open data has been playing roles, how it has been emerging, who are the organization working. So I mostly follow the research that has been done by World Bank. It's very great. I highly encourage you to follow. I'll also share this side with Hussein and Open Knowledge Somalia team so that you can check the link out. At the same time, with World Bank and other development partners, the open data communities are also very active around it, looking into this perspective. So the data for sustainable development, global partnership for sustainable development goals, the Open Data Institute, the Open Data Charter. So these are some of the organizations who have been like actively working on these particular topics, doing research around it, identifying the place to collaborate, kinds of stuff, advocating for that in the global platforms. So these are some of the resources that I've like followed. So I highly encourage you all to check into it and follow this aspect. So I mentioned lots of like possibilities of using open data on enhancing or advancing the sustainable development goals. And when we usually talk about open data, I think we talk a lot about benefits that it might bring on government, on climate, on environmental, on innovations kinds of stuff. But at the same time, there are a lot of ongoing challenges. That's a better truth. So on the open data and SDG part also, there are also a good amount of ongoing challenges that put data on a back foot. So one is about there is a very lack of clear legal and policy guidelines or clear open licensing. So each country has different kinds of data related regulations, policies, act, and many more. So, but there is no great or clear guidelines around it on how sustainable development goals can be measured or achieved using open data, and how open data um, can be used for it. So there is no clear policies around it or the guidelines around it. So there is a use space for individual like us, the organization like us to advocate for it, they work for it, kinds of stuff. And at the same time, there is a very great digital divide between rich and poor, affecting both supply and use of data. So I think this is something that has been like clearly highlighted in many of the platform. The rich country, the poor countries, the developing countries. So there is a very great digital divide. So some don't really have access to the internet. Some don't really have access to the technological infrastructure. So in those countries, or for those individuals, the sustainable development goals or the open data doesn't really make sense, right? And the supply and like use of data are also kind of on the confusing state. So the digital divide has been one of the like key issues on many of the countries and many of the places. And the organization culture in government ministry that innovates data science. So the culture of governments or the organization on different countries are also very different from each other, which create these issues of data silos, making the data interoperability much more difficult. So the data sharing activities or data sharing process of respective government ministry are also very different. So that is also one of the like key challenges. And uh, the supply of appropriate is also lacking. So there is a mismatch between data and demand for open data and supply for appropriate data sets. So demand is for one side. So people have been demanding some different kind of data sets from countries, governments, and the supply side, mostly the government agencies are providing data that are not that useful for innovations, that used for insights kinds of stuff. And the another being data released in the form that is too high level, not granular enough to be useful. So the data that are like kind of released on the website, the catalog kinds of stuff. So that's very superficial and too high level. So many of the agency doesn't really provide the granular or the raw data that can be used for innovation kinds of stuff. So the supply and demand side are also not well aligned. At the same time, the data that are like available are not properly useful. They require a lot of analysis. Some are missing metadata, some are missing the important aspects, some are like inaccurate, some are invalid kinds of data sets. So the balance between all these things has. So with challenges, I think there comes a very opportunities for the individual like us to work on it. So the ideas of like achieving sustainable development goal using data, open data. There is a use space for the open knowledge activists or the data people like us. So with all these benefits of open data and the potentials that it brings, so we can clearly say that open data has a long-run potential. Although the government and many agencies are still scared about transparency and accountability, it can help both for-profit and non-profit organizations create new solutions for social challenge, create jobs, foster economic growth, and improve lives of million people. So it's not always about non-profit or civil society organization, but the open data on the longer run will definitely help government, for-profit organizations, non-profit, and every individuals. So this is something that we need to like convince people and make them understand that open data is not just about transparency or accountability, but it's also about innovations, making business around it, solving the social challenges, fostering the economic growth kind of stuff. So we can see that open data can more effectively target aid money to improve development programs, track development progress, and prevent corruptions, and contribute to innovation, job creations, and economic growth. So these are all things that has been like covered by the government, covered by the open data principles and its benefits. So what next for the individual like us or the organizations that you might all have like represent? So the way forward can be three things. Although there are the list, we can always go ahead and we can also discuss that in later after my presentations. If there are like any ideas around it, where we can like collaborate, where we can like advocate or work together. But no, these three things has been like highlighted by many of the resources and research and the resources. One is about building global consonance around principles and standards. So because on the challenges side, you might have like already seen there is no lack of clear legal and policy guidelines. So which is one of the like key hurdles, because many of the governments work based on the act, policy, and guidelines. So so we need to make sure that there is a global consensus around principles and standards. So people need to we need to develop the drafts, we need to like advocate for it, and many more around it. And at the same time embed open data into funding principle on funding agreements. So there is a lot of funding flowing, development funding, especially around sustainable development, some sustainable development goals. So we need to make sure that the principles of open data are embedded into those funding agreements, so that those activities of sustainable development goals are properly tracked and make sure that it achieve what it has guaranteed. So we need to make sure that the open data is embedded into funding agreements, and at the same time, I think we need to also build this global partnership for sustainable development data. So as in like the active individual working on the field of data, open data, or open knowledge, or any kinds of open knowledge related activities, there is an opportunity for us to make sure that we make a global alliances around sustainable development data, advocate for it, also discuss some of this strategy around the forums, convince people, uh, work to make sure that these challenges are slowly dismissed. So I think after this webinar also, we can always keep this discussion ongoing, so that we can try to implement some of these strategies, make the network and connections around it, and work to make sure that we are on the same page of global partnership. We are working for a sustainable development data, advocating for its access, advocating for its innovations, advocating for its use, reuse, and many more. So yeah, with that being said, I think I've come to my presentation. I just wanted to make sure that we discuss some of the key potential aspects where open data can be used for the sustainable to achieve the sustainable development goals. At the same time, discuss some of the challenges, because that's very important, and um, build the network around it, so that we can try to work on some of these strategies to continuously work on it. So that is my email address. If you have like any further plans, if you really wanted to like get connected with questions and also build partnership with Open Knowledge Nepal or Open Knowledge Foundation, please feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to Open Knowledge Somalia or Hussein for the partnership kind of stuff. But yeah, I'd love to hear your thoughts on how you have been like working on the respective countries kinds of stuff. But yeah, that's all for my presentation. Thank you all for being very patient and listening. Over to you, Sam. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much. It was a very nice presentation. So thank you very much for your time and commitment regarding this kind of presentation of in data for sustainable goals. So we really appreciate it on behalf of Open Knowledge Somalia. Thank you very much again. We also would like to thank the participants. So I will try to give the participants, if they have questions, comment, suggestion regarding this webinar. And then inshallah, a couple of questions, then we will inshallah try to reach out, and then we will try to conclude the session,
Hussein, thank you very much, and Kash. It was really very, very interesting and informative lecture. We here in Somalia still working on in awareness level to make sure that not only public but the government and international NGOs to share their data and use the principles of open data and the guidelines that hardworking volunteers already established. And I really enjoyed the how your percentages touch around the development goals. You mentioned that the world is facing a lot of threats on hunger, education, and there are many problems, and this data can solve a lot if used properly. My question is, can you give us an example of Nepal regarding one of those issues is specifically to the environmental or climate change related issues that you use, because here right now as we speak, several cities in Mogadishu in Somalia, there are floods. Before that there were droughts, and still some parts of Somalia there is a drought. The expected rain but it didn't come, but other aspects of Somalia there is and a lot of rain, and there is floods there, and we would like to help. We would like to help a lot of people in academia, people in development, volunteers. They want to put their effort to give us good information to the average people so that they can be prepared themselves. So we would like to learn from those who already established it, and if you have any example regarding that, it will be appreciated.
Yeah, no, it's like I'll definitely thank you so much, Mohammed. I think that's a very interesting questions, and talking about the examples, I think there are lots of activities that has been like happening in Nepal, or not just in Nepal but in the South Asia region, because like initially I think this momentum of like using open data for disaster response or for the innovation started when on 2015 I think or 17. So Nepal was hit by the earthquake, and people were really curious on how the response or rescue can be done in the rural places of Nepal and in the Kathmandu also. Lots of people were dying, and there comes open data and open map data. So I think there is a very active community in Somalia region also on OpenStreetMap. So during that time, I think lots of communities were active on mapping, open mapping, and that's where the government realized the power of crowdsourced data and OpenStreetMap. So OpenStreetMap has been like very the community is also very active, and so after that disaster, so what government did as they developed this disaster response portal. I can share the link. Maybe that's something the Open Knowledge Somalia can also learn, and also at the same time, oh, there is no chat bottom here. I can share that later in the so when I said share the slide with this, and also it's bipatportal.gov.in. So what they did was they after that one particular examples of using OpenStreetMap to like trace down the mostly hit areas, the people where they need rescues, and like effective ways of like distributing that like relief materials kind of stuff. So they developed this disaster response portals, which is completely crowdsourced, and implement that into the local government. So the local government frequently insert the data related to flooding, the droughts, the forest fire, the any kinds of climate related disaster in the portals, and later at the central level. So all this data are like analyzed to make sure that the proper disaster plans are made and implemented. And at the same time, I think the implementation is very important rather than the planning. So lots of planning happens, but on the implementation level, so the role of data always get decreased when it comes about the tracking money kinds of stuff. So this has been one of the effective examples, and currently Nepal and also in the South Asia region. So because for example, Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Nepal, so they are very interconnected. For example, the rivers of Nepal can cause flooding on India, and the rivers from India can cause flooding from. So it's a intergovernmental or the
Same case,
cross-border
yeah,
related
same case, yeah, because our water comes from our rivers come from Ethiopia, so
Ethiopia.
the flag
Yeah.
trustee status, yeah,
Exactly.
same,
So
yeah.
so currently the lots of discussions that we have been doing in South Asia region is how we can make sure that the cross-border data are more interoperable, so that we can keep this track of all this these potential disaster and make effective planning. So that's something that we, as in like Ethiopia, Ghana, the Somalia, and the place where the open data community active are can start the discussions around how the interoperable data can be made, and how this data can be used for tracking this or making sure that these disasters are properly like tracked down.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Mahmoud. Actually, Mahmoud was one of the founding Open Knowledge Somalia, and now he's currently he's director of the Zamzam University. So this guy is a big boss now. So, but thank you very much. I think we have to conclude the session today. So we're supposed to, our session was like, we had a plan to finish within 45 minutes, but now almost it's 1 hour. So Alhamdulillah, it was very successful, and I would like to thank the speaker, brother, our friend of mine. So Nikash, he is now the CEO of Open Knowledge in Nepal. And of course, a lot of the participants now are enjoying your presentation. So thank you for delivering such a wonderful webinar, and your expertise. Truly, your presentation was actually informative and engaging. And then we will have more sessions regarding the open data related issues, technological aspect for the civic education as well. So thank you very much. We also thank the organizers, Open Knowledge Somalia team, for organizing such event. This is, without them, we cannot, it's not possible, to have such a event. Thank you all for all participants, speakers, as well as, the organizers. Thank you very much, and good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. This is the end of the session.
Thank you.